That was a signal from a distant planet. A technological signature from Proxima Centauri b, to be precise. Named BLC-1, short for Breakthrough Listen 1, it was discovered by the Oxford-led Breakthrough Listen project. Backed by a team of over 100 research scientists, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence Institute, known popularly by its acronym SETI, was incorporated in 1984, with a mission to explore, understand, and explain the origin and nature of life in the universe. SETI has been conducting experiments, primarily by monitoring optical and electromagnetic radiation for signs of transmissions, in a bid to detect intelligent beings in other star systems. The genesis of our story can be traced back to the now-defunct SETI at Home scientific experiment that was hosted by the Space Sciences Laboratory based at the University of California, Berkeley, which used internet-connected computers in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. A distributed computing project, SETI at Home, welcomed public volunteers to donate idle computer power to analyze radio signals for technosignatures from alien worlds. One of many activities undertaken as part of the worldwide SETI effort, a whopping 2 million participants installed a crowdsourced screensaver on their computers following the release of the software on May 17, 1999. Though SETI wound up the program in March 2020, claiming they'd not found any signs of alien technology, the latest report about the search suggests otherwise, according to noted science filmmaker Simon Holland. A staggering 18 non-human technosignatures were purportedly discovered in our galaxy alone. To help put things into perspective, we'll review Simon's claims and the wealth of information he has supplied in chronological order. Simon Holland, who is endearingly addressed as Professor by his fans around the world, for he bears a resemblance to the wild-haired Dr. Emmett Doc Brown, portrayed by Christopher Lloyd in the Back to the Future trilogy, has revealed that millions of euros are being spent, surreptitiously, to contact planets harboring intelligent life. In fact, in February this year, Simon dropped a stunner in a YouTube podcast on his channel when he stated that a semi-retired head of a pan-European radio telescope network had disclosed that we detected an extraterrestrial signal 11 light-years away in 2019. And shockingly, that we are in regular contact with beings from that planet. Simon added that the United Nations had advised the European scientists who approached them with the stunning find to exercise caution and disclose the information to the public over a 25-year period, ostensibly to quell widespread panic that catastrophic disclosure could cause. Let's now listen to the good professor explain the intriguing developments and also divulge hitherto unknown facets to this saga, such as the question of communicating with aliens in real time.
For the last 3 weeks, I've known that humans have been in touch with an extraterrestrial non-human civilizations since 2019. What do I do with this information? And is it true? Hey viewers, this has really taxed me, and it's taken me a long time to decide to actually do a film about it, because if it's not true, I seem like the ultimate plonker. If it is true, why am I bringing you this information, and why isn't the person who wanted to share it with me telling CNN or the BBC? You know, it's world-changing news. So I have a real dilemma with this story, but there's a lot of it that checks out. So today, follow me on this journey, a journey where I've asked this person really difficult questions, really put him on the spot. We've had times where we've communicated over Zoom type calls, over the telephone, over WhatsApp, everything, and I've really given him a hard time. And he checks out. The guy who contacted me is the semi-retired but still working head of a pan-European radio telescope network. I know his name, but he doesn't want to share it publicly. So it gave me the opportunity to check him out with his colleagues, and absolutely, I mean, he was in charge of radio telescopes in Europe, so he knows what he's talking about. He also worked for a large German car manufacturer beginning with P, building all their networking telecommunications for their electric cars. The guy's super important and, you know, highly skilled and knows about radio telescopes and radio telecommunication. So he definitely knows what he's talking about. So the first question is, how did they find the signal? All right, so his answer goes like this. There's an organization called SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And SETI started a whole bunch of years ago when data collection, storage, and processing was difficult. So Frank Drake, who wrote the Drake equation, and the science broadcaster and researcher Carl Sagan came up with a protocol that SETI can use. And their idea was to just listen to a narrow band that they thought was the most likely place that aliens would communicate. It makes sense. I mean, they can't listen back in the 60s everywhere, and if they could listen everywhere, the amount of information would be too hard to process. So they decided to limit SETI's search for ET by listening in the hydrogen band. Now, hydrogen is an element that's omnipresent in our universe, and it vibrates and it makes a noise. If you've got a radio telescope, I don't have one, and listen anywhere, you'll hear the distinctive buzz of hydrogen. So Sagan and Drake surmised that if you just listen in the hydrogen band, an ET would know that we can hear it, they can hear it, so it would be an ideal frequency to choose to communicate. But it has a problem. I reached out to very top radio astronomers, and they confirmed this hydrogen band and said, yeah, it's everywhere and it's quite noisy. That means that if an ET was actually transmitting a low power I Love Lucy show in the hydrogen band, you probably wouldn't hear it because it would be masked by the noise of hydrogen. So this pan-European alternative to SETI, this guy works for, decided now in the 21st century we can listen in a much wider broadband wavelengths, everywhere in fact, because we have the processing. So they've decided to listen in the quiet spots between natural radiation frequencies, not the hydrogen band or other bands, but in the bits between. That makes perfect sense. And in 2019, they found an ET non-terrestrial mechanical signal coming from deep space, he says. Okay, that's amazing. So my next hard question to him is, why didn't you publish it? Why didn't you tell the world? Why isn't it peer-reviewed? Why isn't it in scientific journals? You are the chairperson of a large European radio telescope organization. His telescopes are in Germany, Italy, and Russia. Why didn't you publish the fact? It's an amazing piece of information. I mean, other signals like the WOW signal and Little Green Men signal immediately got a lot of publicity, but this one, nothing, nada. So does that make it not true? So he has a really good answer for that, and that is, so they found the signal and they decided to approach the United Nations for advice. And the UN have a policy on ET and us meeting aliens. They even have an ET officer who's in charge of it. And they advised this European organization not to reveal it to the world in one big press release, but to come up with a 25-year plan of release, of disclosure. And we're currently in year 5. And year 5 says in the plan that by year 5 you know about UAP, UFOs and aliens are in the news all the time, and you're slowly building up over this 25 years to the point where the world understands that there is something out there. We don't know what it is. Then in 2030, whatever, 2035, it comes out that we've actually made contact back in 2019. That's what he says the disclosure timeline is currently at, year 5. All right, good answer, says me. That kind of makes sense for where we are in the kind of UAP story with Congress and other people, UFOs and aliens and the whole UAP and what are they, who are they here on Earth, are they contacting us, is there probes? All these kind of questions are now in the public domain. People are talking about it. It's popular. It's trending, as I find on YouTube. It's certainly a topic of conversation that most people discuss. There's absolutely no evidence that they exist, but we have raised consciousness, or a group have raised consciousness, the Leslie Keans and the of this world and the Luis Elizondos have actually got the whole alien UAP thing into the public domain. Maybe that's what they are paid to do. I don't know. There's no evidence that we actually have contact, but maybe we have we definitely have raised awareness, without a doubt. So his answer was good on that. I kind of like it. So the next obvious big question, mate, is who are they? Where are they? Where did the signal come from? He doesn't want to say the exact constellation, the star system, but he did confirm that it was just over 11 light years away. Well, that's a massive problem, isn't it? So, this is vital that you understand this. Radio telecommunication signals travel at the speed of light, a constant set by Albert Einstein. Nothing can go faster than the speed of light. So, for example, you send a message to the moon, it takes about 3 seconds. There's a delay because it's a long way away. You send a message to Mars and it takes whatever. Is it 20 minutes, 30 minutes? It's a very long way away. AET, a non-terrestrial intelligence on a distant planet, I guess, round a star, 11 light years away, the signal takes 11 years. So the signal that they supposedly picked up in 2019 actually left in, 2008? So it took 11 years. The I Love Lucy alien show took 11 years to transit to Earth until we heard it. And then, if we're talking to them and went, "Ooh, hi, we got your signal. Who are you?" and sent that back, say in the first year, which is kind of unlikely, but just imagine, it would take 11 years to get back to planet Zog, wouldn't it? It's a 22-year round trip. It's a very slow communication. And in fact, they still haven't got it. If we transmitted a signal in RF using a large radio telescope back to where the source of the signal that supposedly he picked up was, it won't get there till 2031? It's going to be a long time and then it's going to take 11 years for them to reply. But he said, we talk to them in real time. Well, it's starting getting into science fiction, says Simon. I'm beginning to look like a plonker. Until he told me about quantum tunneling communication. What's that? Oh, this is really, this bit of what I'm telling you is probably the only thing that I'm saying today which I can completely verify and say is real. The rest, I'm leaving it up to you, to your imagination and the evidence that I presented, to bring your own conclusions to whether we actually have been in contact since 2019. But his answer to my question about 11-year two-way conversation, 22 years to and fro, that doesn't make any sense, was quantum tunneling. What's that? Well, it's real. It's currently probably deployed. The military probably use it right now. It's a way of communicating instantly over vast distances, faster than the speed of light. Supposedly, it's already operational to talk to space satellite assets. And it's not directional either. So you could have a quantum tunneling communication device at a headquarters in Omaha, Nebraska, and talk to a ship in the Pacific or in the Middle East instantly, with no delay or waiting for the ionosphere to work out properly. But is that real? Yes. So I asked him all about it and said, tell me the science of quantum communicating. And he did. What the quantum world is actually saying, this is mind-boggling, is our sense of reality of time and space and distance isn't true. We actually only must live in a flat plane where everything is actually connected, where everything is touching, and we only perceive time, distance, and space in our perception of normal reality, where in fact in the quantum world, everything is interconnected. Are we in touch with ET? I've no idea. It's a lot of what this guy said makes sense. He's a very sensible chap. He's a very important chap. He checks out. His colleagues confirmed that he's real. This pan-European network that isn't working like SETI, that's looking for ET in the quiet spots, exists. I know where the telescopes are. I know their work, but they haven't published it. If they did contact the United Nations, are we in a 25-year disclosure plan? And we're currently in year 5, where everybody's talking about ET and UAP? Yes. So is it real, or am I a plonker? I think I'm just going to let you decide. I definitely know quantum tunneling exists. I definitely know it works. I've also got good evidence that it's currently deployed as a system that works. It's a really interesting dilemma for me as a YouTube creator who wants to share stuff with you. Do I just tell you everything everybody tells me? No, I check it out. Some of this checks out, and other parts might be far-fetched. I guess the truth is out there.
The following month, in March, Simon published videos with even more astonishing content over 2 subsequent days. In these, he dealt with the SETI at Home crowdsourced Screensaver project in the first episode, and in the second one, alleged proof of funding for a global radio telescope network to decode extraterrestrial communications. And hold your breath. Simon concluded this episode by saying his source revealed that they had found discernible, unique information encoded in the global ET signal. By this, the source meant data and pictures transmitted from an alien planet.
You and your computer probably found the best source and evidence of extraterrestrials back in the 1990s. Remember this? This is called SETI at Home. The idea was to crowdsource searching for a signal, because at the time SETI and universities had very limited computing power. Imagine if you could get everybody to search through data on their home computer. And today Wiley and I have been told that 18 ET sources were found by you in the 1990s in a novel way. Let me explain. You have to understand that a telescope like Arecibo or Green Bank or other big telescopes all over the world can potentially get frequencies from the entire universe as that telescope passes the area of the sky as the Earth rotates. But there's no way you can analyze the data. And what would you be looking for? That's where SETI at Home came up with a brilliant idea. They could look at the wideband big frequency recordings, say from Arecibo, and get your home PC as a screensaver to look for the signal. But what signal? And that's where it all becomes very secret. If you actually search the results of SETI at Home, they say nothing was found. But that's not true. Brilliant Italian mathematicians worked out that as the distant alien possible ET technology passed Arecibo, or Earth, it would be like this, the Doppler effect of a siren passing you. We've all heard that pitch change as the siren approaches and the decrease in pitch as it goes away. That's called the Doppler effect. So rather than looking for, hello, I'm here, ET blasting out a big radio signal, what they did is took the 2 million parse data from SETI home and looked for Doppler shift. If you could hear any signal that goes boo as the Earth rotated, it meant it was coming from one unique point source. It wasn't background noise. You would only get a Doppler shift from a single siren. If you had sirens everywhere, you would never hear that pitch increase and decrease. It would be lost. But the distinctive sound of the Doppler going up and then down, even if you couldn't hear the signal, would indicate a point source, possibly of an ET with technological tools. The Italians found 18 Doppler shifts from unique point sources in our galaxy. Who are they? Where are they? And what are they saying? What happened next changed human history. In my next film, I will tell you about the billions of euros that are being spent in 2024 to try and communicate with ET. So if you had ET at home as your screensaver, it worked. They did not find a source from a star. They found a technological signal from a planet orbiting a distant star in our galaxy. No, Doppler shift, red shift, blue shift, works in space. Any object coming fast towards you, like a star or a police car, in any frequency, including in space, compresses the frequency, so it tends to get bluer. And then when it passes, we know the frequency of the siren decreases, or in light, it gets redder as it goes away. That's what they found. But they found more. When they were focused on the object, the distant planet, the solar system, they could also detect Doppler shift rotation of that planet. That's massive. Not only did they reveal the light, and then as Earth rotated, it faded, while they were focused on it, they saw Doppler shift internally in the source. The planet was spinning round, causing internal Doppler shift. That was an enormous clue. But please sir, why do aliens use radio? Well, they probably don't. I'm sure they're not using AM and FM radio. That would be incredible. They're a different species, if they exist, but they're probably sending data because data can be shared using some kind of frequency. The mobile phone network, which is letting you watch this now, or maybe you're watching it on Wi-Fi. Both are pretty alien to people only a few years ago. There's no real advantage in a radio telescope looking at deep space being able to move just a few fractions of a degree here on Earth. Wouldn't it be great if you could have multiple radio telescopes? So you've got one there, one there, one there, and one there. What effectively you would be building would be a giant radio telescope. Instead of having the resolution of one array, you could have the Earth as an array if you could network that together. That's what they're doing. But the question is, why? Look at this funding. The source of this information told me about this $1 billion funding by the EU to build network telescopes. SKA, square kilometre arrays, and low-frequency telescopes are all being networked together to share their data for maybe one purpose. Why am I only hearing from it, and why me, from this person who's very involved in the funding for joining telescopes together? And he said this: it was just the same as Jocelyn Bell and Little Green Men. You don't blab about it until you've got proof. But there was enough evidence to get EU, massively rich organization, to fund this global project, but run by the EU, not run by the Americans. So any government proving ET exists, maybe even communicating with them or getting some information from them, would be light years ahead of their competitors. So in a modern space race, talking to ET first would be very desirable. Why aren't the Americans doing it? Very interesting question. I keep on hearing the same answer. Science in America is very open-minded. Scientists in radio telescopes like Green Bank and all the other big facilities in the United States would love to be doing this, but they get funded by rather strange people in US government. And this goes back to the UFO UAP story. This is a list of the organizations, the countries, the big business, and the money involved in EU doing a major project. What have they found? They found a signal. Now, first of all, they found a planet buzzing with RF energy. But using this wide field global network funded by the EU, my source tells me they've resolved some signals. He's telling me that they found discernible, unique information encoded in the global ET signal. What is it, says I? Decoding what they have found is a big part of this project. What he was prepared to say is their pictures, their data. What exactly alien ET pictures would look like is really fascinating.
As April rolled in, Professor Simon powered on with his jaw-dropping disclosures. As usual, he never once suggested that his observations ought to be regarded as the gospel truth, but that viewers should carefully analyze the information he presents and then arrive at their own conclusions.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man's. Across an immense ethereal gulf, minds that are to our minds as ours are to the beasts in the jungle, intellects, vast, cool, and unsympathetic, regarded this earth with envious eyes, and slowly and surely drew their plans against us.
In a chilling throwback to those famous lines from the radio adaptation of H.G. Wells's novel, The War of the Worlds, narrated by Orson Welles, Simon's next talk focused on non-human intelligences watching Earth. Whether aliens regard Earth with envious eyes or are preparing to draw their plans against us, we know not. Yet. Simon explained that while SETI are looking for non-human intelligences in our distant galaxy, ET might be studying Earth with AI probes on the Moon or in our solar system. Speaking of which, I'm reminded of the mysterious Black Knight satellite. Please watch my documentary on the subject by clicking the link in the description section. Now, back to Professor Simon. After dealing with possible alien probes in orbit, he spoke of extraterrestrial entities living on Earth, maybe under the oceans, asking, "Can we detect ET in our backyard?" Simon then shifted his attention to physicist and astronomer Dr. Beatriz Villarroel, who, in a News Nation interview last month, revealed her discovery of 9 transient objects in space that seemed to disappear and reappear on April 12, 1950, years before any human-made objects went into orbit.
SETI is looking for ET out there, but are aliens looking for us here on Earth? It seems likely that others might know a lot about us. They've probably been studying us for millennia, sending home reports on us, our successes, our failures, our technology, and our wars. But a fascinating question that I've often asked, and I'm sure you have, how are they watching us? One scenario, on the surface, might seem obvious. They approach from afar, get captured by our solar system, enter Earth's gravity, orbit Earth, and then descend through our corrosive atmosphere and hover over a farmer's field in Wisconsin. But hang on, that's all without our incredibly sophisticated detection systems, looking for ICBMs, looking at near-Earth orbit, looking for stuff that moves in space. The military, your government, defense contractors, funded science groups can now all see incredible detail in Earth orbit. I mean, down to a piece of floating junk, which they need to track. So you get my drift. Is it likely that an approaching UFO would orbit Earth and not be seen? And let's put ourselves in their shoes, possibly. It's really risky for an ET to actually descend through our atmosphere and appear in plain sight. So like you, I like to think of other possibilities. Is there a better way? Well, possibly. It seems to be much better if they just stayed out in our solar system and monitored us from there. So today, viewers, let you and I ask a question. If they are just a bit out there, where exactly would they be? I think there's a big thing in the sky that points towards Earth all the time, our moon. The moon has permanently shadowy craters and also moon dust you could bury down into. Everything would be visible to them, sending back data as we stumble from one crisis to another. Plus our human successes, our quantum leaps into advanced physics, for example. Of course, all of that would be really understood by our observant neighbors. So I think SETI shouldn't just search into deep space, but actually look in our own backyard. And if we're really lucky, we might catch ET phoning home, sending our report card to our alien brothers. But assuming physics is roughly the same all over the universe, they would need batteries, a power supply. Earth orbits in a Goldilocks zone. We have energy from the sun. But once you go beyond Jupiter, your solar panels just wouldn't work. So I'm guessing, and I'm actually leading you down a path, I'm sure you're getting this, that the alien technology probably needs a fusion or fission reactor, something for a permanent power supply, even in the deepest, darkest crater on the moon, or buried underneath some rubble, or hiding in our asteroid zone, or way out beyond Jupiter, and of course on the way home, if they ever go back. And a lot of people say they're here already, and they've been here for millennia, probably using the best place to hide on planet Earth, under our oceans. Maybe aliens are looking for our tritium. Maybe that's why there are clusters of UAP over nuclear sites on Earth. They, I like that term, know that we are producing tritium from our dabbling in nuclear power. So as a humble science filmmaker, I'm sure I'm not the first person to think of this. Can we detect ET in our backyard? Well, there's a project trying to answer that in a very clever way. Assuming ET have been here for a while, was there anything orbiting planet Earth before October 1957? The launch of Sputnik 1, of course, that would make anything up there non-human. Beatrice Villarroel runs the Vasco project, and has access to a wide-field star survey before Sputnik. High-resolution pictures were taken by the US Navy just to build navigation charts back in the early 50s of the whole visible night sky. He's really found stuff fascinating before we went to space. So let's keep looking, searching for a probe looking at us. A monolith on the moon or Oumuamua sailing past from interstellar space. But are we really of interest to an alien civilization? I don't know. Or are they worried by us, monitoring us for warning signs? Signs that we are about to make some giant leap in the evolution of mankind. A leap into the stars, but a leap into their backyard.
Come July, and Professor Simon was back with more earth-shattering information. On the 15th, he declared, "It's definitely true." SETI Europe found non-human intelligence in 1999. Regarding the alien technological signature, he explained that the same coordinates from multiple observations were analyzed by several people and scientists. He went on to describe the beginnings of the SETI at Home project and subsequent findings in this riveting episode.
So scroll forward in time, there you go, scrolling forward. Other people joined SETI and said, why are we ignoring all these other bands? Why can't we listen to the aliens in some of the quiet places? We might hear them better. But we don't know where to listen. But we are now, in the 1980s, able to record all the data from the night sky, but we can't analyze it. So along came the interweb, the internet, and smart people at Berkeley in California said, well, why don't we take all these rolls of data of random stuff that probably doesn't contain anything and share it as a screensaver called SETI at Home. It was such a brilliant idea that everybody, millions, literally multi-millions of people signed up for SETI at Home to analyze the radio signal in the downtime, the screensaver of their computer, and maybe they would find alien civilizations. They did, but nobody knew about it. So a group at the University of Berkeley started this screensaver, SETI at Home, and it was super popular. I know IT professionals who had the blessing to install a screensaver on hundreds of thousands of PCs in offices all over the world. You know, they're all nerdy like you and me. And they put SETI at Home on the screensaver. And it just spread like wildfire throughout the world. And poor Berkeley were shoving out packets of this unknown signal that had not been analysed to as many people as possible. But what happened, this is vital, is too many people signed up. So not to disappoint them, they sent multiple copies of the same bit of data to millions of people because they didn't want to let them down. But it was pointless, because how the software was originally designed, and I'll get on to how it was tweaked, was a piece of radio telescope data was analysed on your PC, on your desktop. Really, that was the idea. And it looked through it and said, is there anything odd? And it went, no, and sent the result, no. But what happened in reality, because so many people had signed up for SETI at Home, is the same piece of unknown data from radio telescopes was sent to lots of people. And they all analysed it, and they all came back with different results. Every single PC did a statistical analysis. So it was like, no, 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 maybe, no, 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 no. Right? And if one person had done it, statistically, that would be no. But if 1 million people look at the same piece of data, that little maybe becomes a bigger maybe, becomes a spike. And that's how SETI found we're not alone. It wasn't actually a radio astronomer, it was a mathematician in a university. I know who it is, but I'm not going to say, because he wants to remain nameless, in Italy, southern Italy. He wrote to Berkeley and said, you know, you're sending the same data to millions of people. Could you share their results? And Berkeley said, yeah, it's meaningless. I mean, they all say no. But they didn't. What, 1 million screensavers, as an F-up, looking at the same bit of the sky, actually revealed was detail. So instead of just no, it was boop, boop. It showed microscopic trends. It showed the weak signal. It showed the stuff that one analysis would miss, because it was run over and over and over again by so many people. You could see much more detail in the data. And they found a candidate for an alien technological signature. Why doesn't everybody know about it? It's a big story. Technological signature of a non-human intelligence found on a specific planet at a specific distance. We know where they are. But this week, there's a big change in policy. Another crack of the door has opened to reveal to the public that we've detected a technological alien civilization, and we know where it is. And it hit the newspapers. I've read this all over the place. This is The Guardian. Amazing new technology set to transform the search, you see what they're doing, for alien life. As if they could now begin to listen. Well, they've already found it. What's happening here in this article that the scientists aren't telling the journalists is that they're justifying this massive funding that the EU and Australia specifically are putting in to look for details in the data. What you need to find is it's no good just having the radio on the moon listening to the aliens. You want to actually hear Hotel California or whatever. So have they done that yet? My source says they have. They found something called modulation. So it's not just rocks rubbing together. It might be, of course, a weird geological effect on an alien planet that's making some kind of radio noise. It's not. If you can tell that the signal is modulated, that somewhere in that signal are the lyrics "on a dark desert highway," I'm being flippant. But what are they saying? How are they communicating? Who are they? I mean, that is totally unknown. They're not going to be anything like us. We can't bring human history, us humans, to interpret what the aliens are doing. But we can tell that they are doing something. So let me prove to you what I'm saying is absolutely true. By the way, you are going to hear about contact with aliens, little green men, flying saucers, what UAP actually are, here on YouTube. I'm not saying here on my channel, but you're not going to hear it at the BBC. You're not going to hear it on CNN. You're not going to read it in The Guardian.
The July 16th episode was unlike any other, and even those who had doubted Simon all along sat up and took notice. For on that day, he offered a peer-reviewed Nature astronomy paper as proof of the detection of alien radio signals, debunking theories that it was an artifact of terrestrial interference or the result of false positive detections, all of which meant we are not alone in the universe. Simon maintained that the signal originated from the location of our closest stellar neighbor, a red dwarf star called Proxima Centauri, discovered in 1915. The baffling radio signal, though weak, was detected via Australia's Parkes radio telescope in April and May 2019. This single-point source in the narrow electromagnetic spectrum was subsequently named Breakthrough Listen Candidate 1, or BLC-1. It is considered to be on a par with the Ohio State SETI program's famous 72-second WOW signal that was 30 times stronger than background radiation, detected on August 15, 1977, seemingly from an artificial extraterrestrial source. It must be noted that there can be only one potential planet candidate if the signal indeed emanated from the direction of Proxima Centauri, the closest star to Earth after our Sun, and part of the larger triple star system, Alpha Centauri. That planet is Proxima b, or Alpha Centauri CB, whose discovery was confirmed in 2016. Our closest known exoplanet neighbor, a super-Earth capable of harboring life as it lies in the habitable zone of its star where liquid water can exist. Proxima b is a mere 4.24 light-years away, which is extremely close on the cosmic scale. Proxima b is tidally locked to Proxima Centauri, which means that one side of the planet permanently faces the host star, like our moon is turned towards Earth.
A lot of you have actually asked me, is this real? Well, yes. Peer-reviewed Nature article, Alien Technosignature Verification Framework by Breakthrough Listen. It is real. They found something. So how do you find detail? That's what's being funded right now by the EU Horizon Fund. It says the aim of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, which we know is called SETI, is to find technologically capable life beyond Earth. Yes, please. But a new approach is listening for alien technosignatures. I mean, are they using advanced physics to communicate? On the 29th of April 2019, that's a bit after they first heard it, the Breakthrough Listen SETI project at Parkes Mureang Radio Telescope, that's in Australia, found data. You see, this is very interesting wording, in a narrowband signal, also very interesting, narrowband signal that is consistent with a technological alien signature in the 982 megahertz BLC1 band, where you would expect to hear something. Here in this paper, look at the description, we present how you would work out if it's real or if it's interference. You see, that's the point. I mean, it might be somebody in the comments said, are we actually listening to our signal being bounced back? Are the deep space Lagrange point satellites that are actually confusing the radio telescopes? There are now deep space probes. We have satellites in orbit around Mars. How do you think they get the data back from the Mars rovers? So here's their results. They say, we found in BLC1 a signal, and it's shown in figure 1. This is a waterfall plot. And again, I'll put this up full screen so you who understand what a waterfall plot is, that's just time and frequency falling like a waterfall, but it shows detail graphically. The waterfall signal in this graphic represents many hours of observation, not just a snapshot. They go on to say, we first ensured that the telescope and back-end logs showed normal operation. Good. We filtered out anything else in the 982 megahertz band, including aircraft. A signal from a distant planet, that's what we're saying, would be geographically unique to that location. On November 2020, we began our scheduled observation from Mureang, the radio telescope. They also eliminated LEO, low Earth orbit satellites. I'll put this full screen, again in their Nature article, that were above the horizon at the time of the observations in 2020. And this, I'm about to show you, is what they found. Edit here for full frame. Are you noticing these striations, stripes? They're at a set rate. This is not a natural occurrence. And finally, looking at all the statistical probability, they came up with this. Cut to full frame. What you're seeing here is a plot showing the population of lookalikes and mirrored lookalikes compared to the BLC1 start frequency we were searching for. High probability. So what's going to happen next? Well, they're not going to tell you. Our found source is still uniquely fascinating. It's a SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence target, for very good reasons. The search and the interpretation of this signal gives us unique challenges and will require a network of radio telescopes rather than one dish listening to it. And that, my good friends and new subscribers, is all I know for now. This article that I read out and published in Nature is now 4 years old. In 2024, the EU Horizon Fund has funded networked radio telescopes, as I said, in Germany, in Africa, and now the enormous telescope in Australia. I'm hearing through the grapevine they are focused on one SETI target. We need answers. I think this should go public, and they want more detail.
Fast forward to earlier this month. On October 12th, Simon explained his research in depth, reflecting on discussions with physicist and principal investigator Dr. Andrew Simeon of Breakthrough Listen at Oxford University. Simon stated that Dr. Simeon informed him, "We are still listening and studying BLC-1." Simon later took viewers through recent articles in which he was quoted that claimed an announcement about alien life will come within weeks. But he admitted that Breakthrough Listen as yet are rightly reluctant to publish that they have found evidence of an extraterrestrial technological signature, and then added categorically that the date of confirmation will probably not be in a few weeks, as said in the newspapers. Confirmation will come after the signal can be further analyzed.
Hey everybody, and especially new viewers, so you've probably read the article about me and finding an alien signature in the Daily Mirror, written by senior technological and science journalist Michael Moran. It's a great article. I spoke in depth to the journalist, but it's very short and it précises the whole story. So initially what happened, because I run this little YouTube channel, somebody emailed me who turned out to be very important. He's a senior administrator in EU radio astronomy. And he wanted to tell me the stories. And the amazing piece of new information that this EU radio telescope administrator shared with me is that by parsing the SETI at home data, 5 very likely candidates were found. And these 5 candidates, and that's what they're called, candidates, needed to be looked at more. So here in Europe, we fund big science projects and all science through a program called Horizon, everything from biology to astrophysics. And they started spending a lot of money on building new, better radio telescopes because they wanted to discover the secrets of the 5 candidates. And then along came this new organization, Breakthrough Listen, based in Oxford, but a global organization that suddenly had $100 million of telescope time that they could buy, I think because they wanted more details of the 5 candidates. Breakthrough Listen could now buy hours of telescope time at Green Bank, at Parkes, and at the New Square Kilometre Array in Australia. And what did they do? They focused on the 5 candidates, calling them BL, Breakthrough Listen C, Candidate 1, BLC 2, 3, 4, and 5. BLC 1, Breakthrough Listen Candidate 1, had very positive but very, very weak results. Using the Parkes steerable dish in Australia was this. First of all, this possible technological buzz from a planet was a single point source. If you steered the dish away, it went away. It appeared, it goes away. It's coming from one specific point, right? That's a good clue.
The second thing, the signal was narrow band, rather than the big buzz of hydrogen and other things that make sounds in the radio telescope spectrum. This was a small electromagnetic frequency, the kind of frequencies that we would use here on Earth for radio broadcasts, radar, microwaves, that kind of thing. It's an indication that it's not just a natural source. It's a single point source and it's a narrow beam. But then there's a third clue that roughly the maximum time it could track the single point source by using the steerable dish was about 2 hours. But in those 2 hours, they found the third, and I think the most significant clue. So it appears to be coming from a planet orbiting a distant star. It appears to be narrowband, but the third clue is it had something called Doppler shift. And that means over the 2 hours of tracking it, the signal either increased or decreased in frequency. That means that the planet it's coming from is rotating. Pretty well confirming that the signal was coming from a planet orbiting a distant star rather than a piece of local human interference. The signal, which is still there, which is detected, and further research has now gone on, is a LIZ signal, low information zone. It is so low that it could be cell phone interference from Australia. It could be an Elon Musk annoying satellite. It could be human. So Breakthrough Listen, as yet, are very rightly reluctant to publish that they have found evidence of an extraterrestrial technological signature. They are still looking at it. So I contacted the principal investigator, Dr. Andrew Simeon from Berkeley, who runs Breakthrough Listen's science program. Dr. Simeon, I asked, BLC1, Breakthrough Listen Candidate 1, is it a technological signature? And he gave me this totally unambiguous answer. He said, Simon, maybe. Oh, crap. Yeah. But when pushing him further on what they'd found, he said, well, we're still very much looking at it. When and if we get enough data to confirm what this single point source on a planet rotating in the narrowband electromagnetic frequency really is, we'll publish it. And that's my story. And I'm sticking to it. No, it really is the story. They have found a signal. The signal is LIZ, low information zone. They haven't yet confirmed that it is really a technological signature. When they do, who knows when, Breakthrough Listen will be the people to tell our planet they found evidence of an alien technological signature. But hang on, the Chinese, with their FAST telescope, might do it first.
On October 17th, Simon Holland gave us a bonanza, the audio of the BLC-1 technosignature from Proxima b by the Breakthrough Listen project. More importantly, he revealed that BLC-1 has been investigated further by a radio telescope organization in Europe called Astron using a technique called beamforming.
So here's the big reveal. They're an organization funded very much by EU money called Astron. Astron stands for the Netherlands Institute of Radio Astronomy. What Astron have developed for radio astronomy in 2024 is wonderful. It's a way of getting incredible detail from weak signals. And it's all about phase array multiplex. What's that? Well, they shared with me this very clear piece of animation. Comparing a single movable radio telescope dish, such as the Parkes radio telescope in Australia, the very one that found the BLC signal back in 2020, but explaining how a single dish sensitivity has been blown wide open by phase array multiple radio telescope antenna
and a very clever way of combining all their signals. This is a single movable dish antenna. It picks up a small part of a distant signal and focuses it to a focal point. But imagine a field of antennas that can all pick up the signal. But there's an issue with the field of antennas. Some are slightly nearer the signal and some are much further away. They have a time interface phase issue. When you combine all their separate signals together, there will be a time delay between them. That's the clever bit of the new technology. They can combine all the signals together as one big signal from hundreds of separate phased array antenna. These scientific behind-the-scenes organizations are doing amazing work. Astron works with JIVE. Sorry, it's another acronym, but this is the Joint Institute for VLB1 in Europe. And the people who are combining global radio telescope multiplex information is a group called NOVA. So what is the new radio telescope that has blown this field wide open that can possibly hear enough detail to confirm an extraterrestrial technological signature? This place, the Square Kilometre Array. So that's as far as Astron in the Netherlands are prepared to go with me for you. I thought, until they emailed me this, here for the first time on my social media channel is the signal from BLC1. I keep pressing people to come on screen and actually admit that they found the signal. It's not a matter of if. It's only a matter of when.
On October 18th, Simon addressed the intriguing question of whether the James Webb Space Telescope has found lights on an exoplanet.
So a lot of people have asked me about the James Webb Space Telescope detecting lights on the same exoplanet. Wow, if that's true. So I dived down this rabbit hole to see what filmmakers on YouTube were saying about lights found on this exoplanet. Oh boy, did you realize there are hundreds and hundreds of very weird YouTube channels that are all exact clones of each other? AI voices, the same script, doing the same story. I thought there was only a few idiots like me who thought it might be a good idea to do a technological channel talking about space and weird stuff. But it turns out there are hundreds of cloney AI-generated YouTube channels talking about the same stuff. And none of them are very interesting. I try very hard. I read scientific journals. I read scientific papers, which I have to pay for. I email interesting people. I have Zoom calls with people. I try and get to the bottom of stories for you. So has James Webb Space Telescope detected lights on this exoplanet? Probably not, but look at this amazing graphic I found that somebody made. I love it. On the dark side of the planet there's a ring of light that was supposedly what was discovered. Meh. From my research, I don't think there's very much to the story. I think it originated from a very interesting paper written in Harvard by Avi Loeb and a few other contributors, asking the question whether it might be possible that the James Webb Space Telescope could detect lights on exoplanets. And that question opens an enormous door to a new era that we're in right now. When I interviewed Dr. Andrew Simeon, the principal investigator at Breakthrough Listen, he also said this very interesting piece of information, that technological signatures might not only be electromagnetic, they also could be light, and they also could be a technological biological signature.
that would indicate a technological extraterrestrial civilization. He also said something very intriguing. He said, we're also looking for very tall structures. Oh, they would have to be very tall. There's more going on right now in this hunt for extraterrestrial technological signatures than we all know about.
Before closing, I'd like to make a mention of the chilling observations of Nick Pope, leading UFO investigator and former employee at the British government's Ministry of Defense. He had this to say in an email response to Simon Holland's queries. Does Nick know more than he is letting us in on? You decide.
So I reached out to Nick Pope to ask him what's going on.
Simon, here are some thoughts, which you're free to quote in whole or in part. If a radio signal has been found, the scientific protocol would be to verify it and then publish the data. While not legally binding, the SETI Institute's Declaration of Principles concerning the conduct of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence is the document that most people engaged in this type of research would look to. I don't believe that the US presidential election or the ongoing conflicts in the Middle East or Ukraine have a bearing on the timescale. One factor that might have a bearing on timing relates to a scenario where the assessment is that we're looking at not just a signal, but a message, or a vast amount of information, an Encyclopedia Galactica, for example. In this scenario, it would be prudent to have a go at decoding the message before making an announcement, in case it contains a truth too terrible to be told. It's just speculation, of course, but suppose there's information that states life on Earth was created by an extraterrestrial civilization as a science experiment. But the experiment has been deemed a failure and is about to be terminated. One can imagine other scenarios too, where a degree of caution might be called for before dumping all the data into the public domain. Nick Pope.
So even though we don't know when the stunning, much-awaited declaration about the confirmation of a signal from an alien civilization will arrive, the more pressing question is, which institution or country will make that crucial announcement? Simon Holland believes breakthrough listen scientists are making every effort to prevail over tight-lipped Chinese researchers who have also apparently been studying the signals using FAST or 500-meter aperture spherical telescope program, nicknamed Heaven's Eye, the largest telescope in the world since Arecibo. Nevertheless, this is an exciting time, one in which we are inching closer to disclosure with each passing day.